In her past life, she compromised and only think for others, but in the end, she ended up with everyone complaining and being helpless. She decided to live a different life after a lifetime of rebirth. So she scolded her parents-in-law, divided the family, scolded her sister-in-law, taught her husband, and beat up her uncle. She did everything she could do and everything she couldn't do. I thought she would be even more miserable in this life than in the past, but who would have thought that she would be favored by her parents-in-law, loved by her husband, respected by her uncle, and filial to her children, becoming the winner of life. Keywords of the novel. Rebirth of the Little Wife in the 80s without a pop-up window, Rebirth of the Little Wife in the 80s complete collection download, Rebirth of the Little Wife in the 80s latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Rebirth and Marriage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Rebirth and Marriage. The autumn wind is rustling, and the autumn atmosphere is strong. September 6, 1980 Ganqing, Dongxian, Maojialing. The newly built earthen house has red couplets, and the ground is covered with traces of firecrackers. Fine pieces of paper are scattered throughout the yard. The Xing family has just had a happy occasion, whether it's the people, the yard, or the house, they are all filled with joy. Today is the second day of marriage, so theoretically, the new bride should wake up early to offer tea to her in-laws. But there was no movement in the new house, which made the parents of the Xing family, who have been waiting to see their new daughter-in-law for a long time, very unhappy. Fourth, go see what's going on with your big brother and sister-in-law. What time is it? Why don't you get up yet? After his mother spoke, Xing Beifeng had to get up and call for someone. Dong dong dong. Upon hearing the knocking on the door, Yun Fanghua opened her eyes and was about to vent her anger at someone disturbing her qingmeng. However, she was startled when she saw the large red cotton quilt covered with the words, Double Happiness, and Dragon and Phoenix Auspicious, written on it. What's going on? How could an old lady cover such a blanket? Upon closer inspection, I suddenly realized something was wrong. When did one's own hands turn white and tender? I didn't even want it to be the hands of an elderly person, but rather the hands of a young girl. What exactly is going on? Yun Fanghua, whose mind was full of confusion, quickly sat up, only to hear someone next to her mutter, What's wrong? Xingbei City. Yun Fanghua turned her head and looked at the young version of the man, stunned again. He and she have both become younger. I carefully examined the bed, the quilt, the mosquito net, and the room filled with the words of happiness. If she remembers correctly, this should be her wedding room with Xingbei City. Wait, new house. Is she back when she got married? Oh my goodness, is she reborn now? Yun Fanghua suddenly felt a little excited and wanted to laugh, but she didn't dare to laugh out loud, so that others wouldn't think she was crazy. Due to suppression, her body shook violently. At this moment, the door was knocked on again, and the voice of the young uncle Xing Beifeng came in. Big brother, sister-in-law, have you woken up? Mom and Dad are all waiting for you. Upon hearing these words, Yun Fanghua slowly calmed down, glanced at Xing Beiqing who was still sleeping next to him, and reached out to give him a push. Xing Beiqing, wake up quickly. What's wrong, is it dawn? Xing Beiqing opened his eyes and spoke vaguely. If we don't get up in the sun again, we'll be sunbathing our buttocks. Yun Fanghua rolled her eyes in silence. Yesterday was their wedding night. This man has just started eating meat, without any restraint, which has exhausted her to the point of exhaustion. Otherwise, she wouldn't have slept until this point before waking up. In their past lives, it was the same because they got up late, so my mother-in-law asked my uncle to call them. Because of this, the mother-in-law's family is not very happy and has very different opinions towards her, even thinking that she is a lazy person. Thinking of the cold face of her mother-in-law when she served tea in her previous life, and the strange words of her sister-in-law, Yun Fanghua's gaze darkened. In her previous life, she didn't want to make everyone unhappy when she just married in, so when her mother-in-law had a cold face and her sister-in-law scolded her, she endured it. But she didn't want to endure it for a lifetime, and in the end, not only did they not look up to her, but they even became more and more excessive. Having learned from her previous life, Yun Fanghua decided not to bear it anymore. If my mother-in-law still has a cold face and my sister-in-law is going to be weird, she will definitely fight back. Divorce if it's a big deal. Reviving her life, Yun Fanghua will not be so foolish anymore, nor will she feel ashamed of divorce. She had already understood that living happily for this woman was more important than anything else. Under the urging of their uncle, the couple quickly changed their clothes and headed towards the living room. Before entering the hall, Yun Fanghua heard her sister-in-law speaking. Mother, sister-in-law is also too shameful. She just slept in on the first day of marriage and didn't mention it, which made everyone wait for her. You need to teach her the rules of the Lao Xing family well later, otherwise she will have to climb onto your head. My sister-in-law Xing Beiyun is an old woman who has always been favored and pampered at home. Originally, such words should not have been said by her sister-in-law, but neither Xing's mother Xing Fengying nor Xing's father Xing Guan stopped them. Even in their eyes, they felt that their daughter was right. Whose new daughter-in-law doesn't wake up early and cook breakfast for a large family? But his family is doing well, not only because they don't wake up early, but also because they have to wait as parents-in-law, which is too outrageous. When they arrive later, she needs to beat well to prevent her temper from growing. As her daughter said, she will ride on her head in the future. After listening to her sister-in-law's words, Yun Fanghua stopped and turned to look at Xingbei City. What's wrong? Xingbei Qing looked at his wife in confusion, not understanding why she stopped at the door. As for what his sister just said, he didn't miss it. However, he had long been accustomed to his sister's small and medium-sized appearance, so he didn't take it to heart. What did you say? Yun Fanghua suppressed her anger, and her sister-in-law's words reminded her of her past life. In her past life, she didn't care about these words, and she also felt guilty, feeling that she shouldn't sleep so late. She felt like she had not done anything wrong in her life. Why should she feel guilty and labeled as lazy? All of this is clearly caused by the man in front of me. If it weren't for his lack of restraint last night, how could she wake up late? Xingbei Qing looked at his wife's voice and realized that she was angry. He's not stupid, just a moment's thought reveals that she was angry because of her sister's words just now. So, he whispered to Yun Fanghua, daughter-in-law, my little sister has this temper. She can't speak without thinking. Don't take it to heart. What a person to take to heart. Yun Fanghua sneered and said in a cool voice, why didn't she mention you? And why did I sleep until now? Don't you have any points in your mind? Daughter-in-law, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I'll talk about her better later. Don't be angry. My parents are still waiting inside. Let's serve tea first, okay? Looking at the man who had spent his whole life with him, Yun Fanghua decided to give him some face. Otherwise, if things get up the next day after getting married, her face won't look good either. Seeing Yun Fanghua's face slightly pale, Xingbei Qing took the lead in entering the living room. As soon as he entered, he immediately took responsibility on himself and said, Mom and Dad, I'm sorry. It's all because I was so excited yesterday that I couldn't sleep, which caused Fanghua to wake up late. Don't blame her. As soon as these words were spoken, Xingbei Yun immediately snorted coldly and said, Brother, you've been protecting since you first got married. As expected, the flower magpie has a long tail, and once you have a wife, you forget your mother. Shut up, what are you talking nonsense about? Xingbei Qing frowned. The first time I felt that what my sister said was too unpleasant. Of course, besides that, he was also a bit sad. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Changing the Way of Life. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 2. Changing the way of life. He is like his parents, because his younger sister is the youngest, he has been loving and doting on her since childhood, almost giving her whatever she wants. But he never dreamed that his sister would simply label him with an unfilial hat just because of one of his words. It's just oversleeping. Why did he and his wife become unfilial and lazy? Mom, look at my older brother being cruel to me. Sheng Beiyun heard her brother yelling at her and grabbed her mother's arm sitting next to her, throwing a coquettish expression. Boss, what's wrong with you? You got angry right after getting married. What did your little sister say wrong just now? This morning, you made us parents wait for you, and you still have reason. Mom. Sheng Beiqing shouted, intending to defend himself a few words. Zheng Fengying didn't want to listen at all, so she interrupted, all right, stop talking, why don't you serve tea? Don't forget to go to the ancestral hall and present the genealogy later. The genealogy is a big deal, and Shengbei City dare not delay it, so it has to swallow everything it has to say. Yun Fanghua saw all of this in her eyes, holding the idea that silence is golden, and had no intention of arguing with her sister. In law for the time being. She just assumed that she hadn't heard those words just now. But she didn't intend to argue, but her sister. In law didn't want to let her go and started acting strange in front of her. I said sister. In law, you really can sleep. Let's not even see what time it is now, the sun is going to sun your buttocks. Whose new daughter. In law sleeps so late like you, and she still needs to be called out. If the villagers find out about this, they don't know how to make fun of our Laoxing family. Yun Fanghua glanced up at her sister. In law with a faint tone, who's so unruly about my sister. In law. How could she teach her a lesson? Sheng Beiyun had long been accustomed to being let down by her family. Suddenly, when she heard Yun Fanghua scolding her and saying she was not behaving properly, her face turned ugly. Who do you think has no rules? Who did you say I was talking about? Yun Fanghua replied lightly and then asked Sheng Beiqing next to her, are you still respectful of this tea? If you're not respectful, then I'll go back and rest. I didn't sleep well last night, so I'll be feeling sleepy. Upon hearing these words, Sheng Beiqing suddenly felt guilty. Last night, Yun Fanghua couldn't bear it and kept begging for mercy, saying no more. But he just started eating meat, where can he resist? No, if you're not careful, it will be too much. Bold. Sheng's mother looked at Yun Fanghua angrily and asked, Yun Fanghua, do you still have me and your father in your eyes? You don't know what to say or what not to say. Do you think it's appropriate to say that in front of your parents-in-law, uncles, and aunts? Auntie, you also know that it's not appropriate for me to say such things. So, just now, my sister. In law's words were appropriate. When my sister. In law was not big or small just now, why didn't you say anything wrong? You. Sheng's mother gasped for breath, and her eyes looked at Yun Fanghua with hatred. She never dreamed that this new daughter. In law would dare to confront her mother. In law on the first day. If I had known Yun Fanghua had such a temperament, she would not have agreed to the boss marrying her. Looking at her mother. In law who was infuriated by her, Yun Fanghua felt a wave of pleasure in her heart. In her past life today, she was concerned about her own identity. Since she dared not blame her sister. In law, she also dared not blame her mother. In law. But her compromise did not earn them a smiling face. Not only that, but anything bad in the future will be her fault. Now, since God loves her and wants her to live a new life, she naturally needs to change her way of life. In this life, she will come how she wants to be happy. Regardless of whether she is a mother. In law or a sister. In law, as long as she is not happy, she will make them even more unhappy. Sheng's mother didn't want to be angry with her daughter. In law anymore, so she turned her spear around and turned her eldest son, Sheng Beiqing. Boss, take a look at what kind of wife you're married to. You've just married in and you're just contradicting me like this. I don't know what you'll do to me in the future. Mom, this was not initiated by Fanghua. Why are you blaming her? She didn't say anything wrong just now, little sister. You have to take care of it, otherwise you won't be able to get married in the future. You. Okay, I already know. Indeed, you married your wife and forgot about your mother. I was so angry with her, and you still protect her. Mom, can you be reasonable? We slept late today, it's because of me. Why do you always hold on to Fanghua? As the mother and son started arguing again, Shingoan finally spoke up and said, "All right, let's not say a few words. Let's serve tea first." The man spoke, so Zheng Fengying had to close her mouth and wait for Yun Fanghua to offer her tea and change her mouth. The tea is already ready, it will still be warm and there is no need to change it anymore. Yun Fanghua didn't want to change anymore. She picked up the tea next to her and knelt down to shout at Shingoan, "Dad, have some tea." Okay. Shingoan responded, took a sip of tea, took out a red envelope, handed it to Yun Fanghua, and said, "Since we're married, we'll live well with our boss in the future." Got it, thank you Dad. Yun Fanghua put away the red envelope and kowtowed to him with a smile. When it was her turn to offer tea to Zheng Fengying, Yun Fanghua knew she would make things difficult for her, but she didn't expect her to pour tea directly onto her body. It's autumn now, and she's only wearing a long-sleeved shirt. This tea still feels a bit cold when poured onto the body. Now, Yun Fanghua became completely angry and stood up, saying, "Auntie, if you don't want to drink the tea I'm offering, just say it directly. I won't force you. Why do you pour tea on me? If you ruin a piece of clothing, don't you say it. If I catch a cold and get sick, won't you have to spend money again?" Sheng Beiqing always thought that his mother was different from others, that her mother was reasonable and wouldn't compete with her daughter.in.law like other mother.in.law. But I didn't want to, I slapped my face on the second day of my wedding. Looking at his daughter.in.law, whose sleeves were half wet, and then taking a look at his still cold face, even his proud mother, and his sister sitting watching jokes, Sheng Beiqing directly reached out to help his daughter.in.law and said, "Fanghua, this tea is disrespectful. I'll take you back to your room to change clothes. We'll have to go to the genealogy later." After speaking, he didn't care about his mother's unpleasant expression and directly helped Yun Fanghua leave. "My child's father, take a look at him. This marriage won't take our old couple seriously. If I had known this, why would I have bothered to marry him? Just let him be single. Are you still unfinished?" Shingoan looked at his wife with a displeased expression and said, "You didn't make all of this. Give a good cup of tea, why do you pour the tea on the eldest wife? It's said that the mother is not kind, and the son is not filial. How can you make others show filial piety to you like this? I know you've been waiting for a long time, and you're angry. You want to give your daughter.in.law a scolding, but don't you look at what time it is today. Later, they have to go to the temple to show everyone that the eldest wife has changed clothes, and how do others still look at you?" End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Initial Separation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Initial Separation, Me. Zheng Fengying opened her mouth, but couldn't speak. She just wanted to give Yun Fanghua some color to see, how could she expect so much? "Are you satisfied with what has happened now?" Shingoan was very dissatisfied. My wife usually doesn't do things so poorly, why did her son become like this when he got married? Not to mention that Shingoan couldn't understand, the same goes for Xingbei City. It's like one night, my mother changed into a different person. On the way back to the room, Sheng Beiqing thought for a moment and decided to help his mother make up for it. He said to Yun Fanghua, "Daughter-in-law, don't blame your mother. She's probably not in a good mood today, and she'll be fine in a while." Yun Fanghua stopped and turned to look at the man beside her. To be honest, she also had many complaints about this man in her past life. Every time she has a conflict with her mother-in-law, he always says that it's his mother. It's not easy to raise him. He also married him to make her bear it. At first, she also felt that she was the new daughter-in-law and it didn't matter if she could bear it. After all, there is no conflict between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law in any family, as long as they can get by on a large scale. But I don't want to, this one endure for a lifetime, hold back for a lifetime. But this time, she didn't want to bear it anymore and said directly to Xingbeiqing, this is my temper. If someone doesn't offend me, I won't offend them. If anyone wants to offend me, I won't be at a disadvantage. If you can tolerate me, you can tolerate it. If you can't tolerate me, you can send me back to your mother's house. Daughter-in-law, what nonsense are you talking about? We just got married, and you don't expect us to get along well. How could you say such things? I naturally hope we are good, but some people don't want us to be good. Otherwise, how could we make a fuss on such an occasion today? When it comes to this matter, Xingbei City feels guilty. He never expected his mother and sister to be like this, empathizing with each other. No matter who encountered such a situation, their hearts would not feel good. With this in mind, he reached out to embrace Yun Fanghua's shoulder and said, "Wife, I'm sorry. I apologize to you on behalf of my mother and sister." Do you think apologizing is useful? Yun Fanghua brushed Xingbeiqing's hand off his shoulder and said seriously to him, "Xingbeiqing, listen carefully. I'm not joking with you. If you want us to live a good life together, then find a way to split up. Otherwise, if there are mother-in-law and sister-in-law mixing in, we will eventually have conflicts. Split the family. You're crazy. We just got married, how can we split the family? I'm not crazy, it's you who can't figure out the situation. Today, your mother and sister didn't give me face, that's to say, they didn't give you face. If they had any concerns about you, they wouldn't have done such a thing. You should think carefully about what I just said." After speaking, Yun Fanghua pushed open the door and walked into the room. "Today I'm going to the ancestral hall to present the genealogy. I was supposed to wear the clothes I wore for my wedding yesterday. Now, the clothes are wet, she can only change one. Fortunately, for this wedding, besides what she was wearing, she also made a whole outfit. However, it's not red, it's blue. I used to look festive wearing red when I just got married, but now I can only make do with it." Xing family, Xingbei saw her elder brother and sister-in-law leave and started acting like a demon again. She said to Xing Fengying, "Mom, look at my brother. Getting married feels like a different person. In the past, he wouldn't have spoken to you like this. He used to be not only filial to you, but also kind to me. But look at him today. He not only scolded me, but also stood on Yun Fanghua's side. This is only one night. He bullied his family for an outsider, and in the long run, it's okay. Xiaoyun, please shut up for me. Do you still think your mother is not angry enough? Your brother didn't say anything wrong, and there are some things you shouldn't have said. Dad, why have you changed too?" Xingbei looked unhappy and shook her mother's hand, accusing, "Mom, you see my dad has also changed. Shut up, don't stir up trouble here. If you have free time, go fetch pigsty. The pigs at home haven't been fed yet. Mom, my older brother has already married his wife. Why should I still farm pigsty? No, I won't do it. If you ask my sister-in-law to farm pigsty, I'll stay at home." Xing Fengying naturally felt sorry for her daughter and also spoke up on the side, "His father, Yun, is right. With one more person in the family, she should take a break. When the eldest daughter-in-law comes back later, let her go fetch pigweed. You can do it, sooner or later you will regret it." Xingguan didn't want to argue with his wife and daughter, so he went straight to work without seeing or feeling annoyed. Speaking of Yun Fanghua and Xingbeiqing, when they arrived at the temple, someone was already waiting for them. As long as Yun Fanghua's name is added to the family tree, it will be considered that the Xing family has recognized her identity. In fact, Yun Fanghua is not very enthusiastic about the matter of going up the genealogy. However, looking at the lively appearance of Xingbei City, she is also not good at dampening the mood. After completing the genealogy, Xingbei took Yun Fanghua around the village to identify people, so that they wouldn't know what to shout when they met in the future. I have lived in the village for a lifetime in my past life, and Yun Fanghua has a clear understanding of who she is. Even if Xingbei doesn't bring her, she still knows. However, it is not advisable to let others know about her rebirth, so as not to burn her as a monster. Therefore, she honestly followed Xingbei to recognize people. This is called auntie, this is called uncle, this is called auntie, this is grandpa, this is called sister, that is called brother. Around, almost everyone in the entire village knew each other. After recognizing the person, it was getting late and Yun Fanghua was tired. She said directly to Xingbei, Beiqing, let's go home. I didn't have breakfast this morning, and I'm starving. Okay, then go home for dinner. Xingbei was also hungry and couldn't help but accelerate his pace. As soon as the couple got home, they were about to go to the kitchen to see what they had to eat. Xingbei walked out of the room and looked at Yun Fanghua with a smile, saying, Sister-in-law, you're back. Our pigs haven't been fed yet. Mom said, you'll be the one doing the pig herding in the future. Oh. Yun Fanghua responded lightly, not taking it to heart. In her past life, it was the same. After recognizing Xingbei, she couldn't wait to be assigned tasks, first picking up pigsty, then washing clothes and cooking. As for herself, she acted like a young lady and hid in her room until she ate before coming out. This time, Yun Fanghua had no intention of getting used to her. Whoever should do their job should do it. In her past life, she helped Xingbei with so much work, but she didn't hesitate to say a word. She still felt disgusted about this and that. This time, she won't be so foolish. Xingbei asked her to do the work. But now that she is hungry, it's not time to argue with her. It's better to fill her stomach first. However, when Yun Fanghua walked into the kitchen, she found that the stove was empty and even the pot had been washed. It is obvious that the mother-in-law did not leave any food for the couple at all. Not only that, but even the kitchen cabinet has been locked. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Revealing Family Shame. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Revealing Family Shame. Yun Fanghua's face looked a bit ugly as she pulled Xingbei and said, Look, you don't even give us food. Do you still think your mother's anger is temporary? This. Xingbei's face was also not good, he didn't expect his mother to do so excellently. Isn't it just that I woke up a little late? Whose wedding night didn't come like this? What's wrong with sleeping a little longer? Besides, they didn't delay anything, just made their parents wait for a while. Yes, it's not right to make parents wait for them, but there's no need for that, right? Xingbei couldn't help but have objections to his mother. I thought to myself, no wonder my wife wanted to split up just after getting married. Just getting married and treating them like this, I don't know how to spar in the future. It's better to split up early and live each other's lives. However, as we are just getting married now, we will definitely be criticized for bringing up our family. Maybe they will shift the responsibility onto Yun Fanghua again. Let's just endure it a little longer. With such thoughts in mind, Xingbei could only comfort Yun Fanghua and said, Wife, don't be angry. I'll go inside and see if there's anything to eat. After speaking, Xingbei went into the hall to see if there was anything that could fill his stomach. Upon hearing the commotion, Xingbei opened the door and poked her head out. She looked at Xingbei, who was searching for food, and asked, Big brother, what are you looking for? Mom didn't leave breakfast for me and your sister. Is there anything else to eat at home? Although Xing Beiqing had some objections to this sister before, his anger had long dissipated. Unexpectedly, Xing Beiyun sneered and said, "Mom told me, sister.in.law has so much ability, you can handle it yourself." Mom really said that? Xing Beiqing frowned, somewhat incredulous. Isn't this making things difficult for them? There is nothing to eat at home, and they are not separated. Where should they go to find food? Is it difficult? Let them go to the market to eat. But he doesn't have any money on him. The more I think about it, the more angry Xingbei City becomes. Although he is the eldest in the family, he has always been honest and only knows how to work with his head covered all day, without so much fuss. I gave all the money I earned to my parents, but I didn't have any money on me. Is it difficult? He wants to spend his wife's dowry. This is hard to say, but it doesn't sound good. If people know, they don't know how to laugh at him. But right now, my mother is not at home and everything he can eat is locked up. What should he do? I can't let my wife accompany me to go hungry, can I? Thinking of this, Xing Beiqing looked at his sister and said, "Yun Yun, lend me a few dollars." "What do you want money for? What do you care about doing so much?" Xing Beiqing was a bit unhappy. If it weren't for his lack of money, he wouldn't have said this to his sister. However, when it comes to the siblings, only the younger sister has more pocket money. Her parents dote on her and usually give her a few cents. Not like them, although they earn money themselves, they have to hand it over to their parents and have no hair on them. After listening to his elder brother's words, Xing Beiyun rolled her eyes and asked, "Brother, don't you want to take your sister.in.law to the market for dinner?" Without waiting for Xing Beiqing to answer, Xing Beiyun continued, "All right, she has been treating our mother like this morning. You even have to take her to the market for breakfast. You don't care about our mother at all and don't take her seriously. Wait, when she comes back, I will report it to her. Xing Beiyun, if you don't sow discord, you will die. Don't you see what you and your mother are doing? Don't rely on me for knowledge. You have put in a lot of effort today. You are not afraid of being laughed at for doing such a thing. With just you like this, who dares to marry you in the future? What did I do wrong? It's clearly your own problem," Xing Beiyun argued forcefully, and she didn't even think she was wrong. "You." Xing Beiqing was so angry that he clenched his fists. At this moment, Yun Fanghua walked in and saw the anxious siblings. She gently tugged at Xing Beiqing's sleeve and said, "I just saw that Aunt Air's house was having dinner. Why don't we go to Aunt Air's house to grab some food? It is said that family shame cannot be exposed, and Yun Fanghua originally did not intend to let everyone know about family matters." When someone asked her why she didn't wear wedding clothes when she went to the genealogy before, she also found an excuse to pass it by. Unexpectedly, her mother in.law didn't even leave them food, so she had nothing to hide and had to publicize what her mother.in.law had done. Isn't that good? What's wrong with this? You don't have any money on you. Is that difficult? Are you going to borrow money? When they ask you why you borrowed money, do you want to tell others that your mother won't keep food for you and me, and you want to borrow money to take me to the market to eat? Can we go eat at Aunt Air's house? They will also ask, right? We're all part of the same family, just ask. Anyway, it's embarrassing to leave it in front of our own people, not in front of outsiders. Okay, listen to you. Thinking about it, Xing Beiqing also made the same logic. So, they went to Aunt Air's house with Yun Fanghua. Aunt Air's house is an old one, about 1,000 meters away from them. When the couple arrived, Aunt Air's family was still eating. Seeing them going back and forth, he greeted them with a smile and said, "How did you come back? Have you eaten yet? Do you want to sit down and have some?" Xing Beiqing felt a bit embarrassed and didn't know how to answer for a moment. Yun Fanghua didn't care and said directly, "Auntie, to be honest, our mother.in.law didn't leave us any food, and the cabinet at home was locked again. We were very hungry, so we came to see if your family had anything to eat. Let's borrow some from us first, and we'll return it to you when our mother-in-law comes back. What can I borrow? Uncle and aunt are not outsiders. Sit down and eat, I'll go get you some bowls and chopsticks. Aunt said and went to the kitchen to get 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks. Thank you, Auntie. After Yun Fanghua took it, she smiled and said thank you. She knew that her uncle's family had many children and the conditions were not good. She thought that when her mother-in-law came back, she would find a way to bring something over. There are many neighbors living next to Aunt Air's house, who like to sneak through the door. When they saw Xing Beicheng and Yun Fanghua eating here, they couldn't help but be curious and asked a few more questions. Yun Fanghua naturally won't miss such an opportunity. After a while, she will have to split up and naturally stand on the moral high ground. She pretended not to understand and asked those aunties if this was the custom here. Then he inadvertently revealed what his mother-in-law and sister-in-law had done this morning. Xing Beicheng wanted to stop him, but Yun Fanghua ignored him at all. If it weren't for the sake of her 4 children in her past life, she would have wanted to divorce Xing Beicheng directly. In her past life, she married this man because he was honest. Later on, I found out that honest people can't even get married, and she will make you suffer a lot. Because once something happens, he thinks of calming things down, and no matter whose fault it is, he will feel that you haven't done it well. If you are bullied, he will not stand up for you, he will only make you apologize to others. Yun Fanghua's promotion quickly spread the reputation of Xing's wicked mother-in-law. Well, while Xing's mother was still working in the field, the villagers joked, "Fengying, I heard you don't even give your new wife food, is that true?" End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Who can be blamed? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Who can be blamed? Fengying, weren't you very satisfied with this daughter-in-law when we were getting married before? How come I heard that when we were offering tea in the morning, you poured her a whole body of tea? Fengying, I heard that your daughter has taken care of her elder brother and sister-in-law. How can she get married in the future? Who dares to marry such a fierce girl? Fengying, in the first 10 years, I will see my grandmother, and in the second 10 years, I will see my daughter-in-law. You are treating them like this now, so be careful not to be ignored when you get old. Fengying, didn't you say you didn't like those wicked mother-in-law before? Why did you change when you married your daughter-in-law? Xing's mother's face is as ugly as it seems, so what happened in the morning naturally wouldn't have been reported by her. It's also impossible for him to be his own man. His daughter is suspected. But she has always been lazy, so she probably will still be at home. The only one who can pass on this matter is the worried boss and his wife at home. Although the boss is honest, he is not foolish and will definitely not reveal his family's reputation. So only one person would do such a thing, and that's her newly married good daughter-in-law. Thanks to the matchmaker who said she was an honest and perfect match for the boss. Now it seems that this matchmaker has deceived her. This is not an honest person, this is a troublemaker. Thinking of this, Xing's mother wished she could rush home and give Yun Fanghua a good lesson. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't know who was slandering me behind my back. Am I that kind of person? After calming down, Xing forced herself to hold on to her dignity. Isn't it that you don't know in your own heart? Yeah, they all say, no wind, no waves. Since this statement has been spread, it's impossible for it to be out of thin air, right? Yes, 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 I saw your son and daughter-in-law eating at his second aunt's house today. If it weren't for the lack of food at home, who would have gone to someone else's house for dinner on the first day of their wedding? Even at his second aunt's house, it's not acceptable, it's embarrassing. That's right, if it were me, I would definitely feel embarrassed to go. It's not just about losing face, it's not even about losing you as an elder in the family. Are you saying that, Fengying? Listening to everyone's sarcastic remarks, Sheng's mother blushed with anger, but she had no way to deal with them. Finally, she couldn't bear it anymore and stopped working. She picked up her tools and went home. Feng, why did you leave? This job hasn't been finished yet. Feng, don't leave. I have something else to ask you. Feng. Sheng's mother pretended not to hear everyone's words and walked quickly, but she had already harbored a grudge in her heart. At this moment, she only had one thought in her heart, which was to go home and teach Yunfanghua a lesson. But when she returned home, she found that the pigs were starving and howling. I was already filled with anger in my heart, but now I became even angrier and said directly, what about the people at home? Why don't you feed the pigs? Do you want to starve them to death? Upon hearing his mother's loud voice, Sheng Beiyun immediately ran out of the room and complained, Mom, this is not my business. I told my sister-in-law a long time ago to let her feed the pigs. Where is she? Sheng's mother asked angrily. I don't know. I don't know either, I don't know either. What else do you know? Sheng's mother roared with an unpleasant expression, because she had lost face outside and was angry. Even her daughter, who had always been a pet, couldn't please her. Mom, what are you yelling at me for? If you have the ability, go find my sister-in-law. By the way, I forgot to tell you that my elder brother asked me to borrow money before and said he wanted to take my sister-in-law to the market for dinner, but I didn't borrow it. What are you saying? There's no food at home. They even run to the market to eat. They have money to cook. Sheng Beiyun felt a bit guilty and didn't dare to tell her mother. She deliberately hid the food. No woman knows her mother. Seeing her daughter's evasive expression, Zheng Fengying still had something unclear. Originally, it was true that there was no food left. It's just not her, but her good daughter. This is really her good daughter. She's so embarrassed today, it's all thanks to her. Say, did you hide the food? Zheng Fengying drank and asked. I just wanted to teach them a lesson. Who made Big Brother say that about me in the morning? Sheng Beiyun carefully defended herself, she was just intentionally. You're really angry with me. Zheng Fengying raised her hand and wanted to hit her daughter, but in the end, she couldn't take action against her stubborn face. But she was really angry and directly ordered, Go, you get out and feed the pigs to me. Me. Sheng Beiyun wanted to say, I won't go, but before she could finish speaking, she was interrupted by Zheng Fengying. You dare not go, see if I won't beat you. Seeing her daughter still standing still, Zheng Fengying directly drew a finger-thick stick from the nearby firewood pile and cursed, You debt collector. Do you know how much face I've lost because of this? Now the people in the village say I'm a wicked mother-in-law, and my daughter-in-law doesn't give her food as soon as she enters the door. What, how could this be? Sheng Beiyun looked surprised, she didn't expect things to turn out like this. She just wanted to teach her elder brother and sister-in-law a lesson, why has she now caused her mother to lose a bad reputation? Who made you lose your mind when doing things? Zheng Fengying nodded at her daughter's head with her finger, feeling extremely angry in her heart. If she hadn't been born by herself, she would have been beaten up long ago. What are you still doing? Go feed the pigs. Zheng Fengying became foolish and urged her to go work. As for the eldest daughter-in-law, she won't be at home this time. I'll show her when she comes back. Since she thinks she is an evil mother-in-law, she should show her as an evil mother-in-law once. Just as they were thinking, Sheng Beicheng and Yunfanghua returned, carrying firewood on their backs. Just now, the two of them had dinner at Aunt Air's house and had a good promotion of their mother-in-law's actions. Yunfanghua had nothing to do, so he asked Sheng Beicheng to go up the mountain with her to chop firewood. What kind of personality is mother-in-law? She knows it very well in her past life. In this life, she doesn't want her mother-in-law to hold on to her handle. Do you still know how to come back? Zheng Fengying stood at the entrance, coldly watching the two of them carrying firewood. Mom, you're back. Sheng Beiqing spoke first, his tone lukewarm. His mother didn't leave food for them in the morning, and he still had a lump in his heart. If I don't come back, I'll be drowned by everyone's spit stars. You two are really good, you dare to arrange me outside. Mom, what are you saying? When did we arrange for you? Yeah, Mom, you really misunderstood us. Yun Fanghua also chimed in, we didn't have any breakfast this morning, and we were really hungry. We had to go to Aunt Air's house to have a meal. Aunt Air asked the reason, I can't lie, can I? I left the food at home in the pot for you, but you didn't eat it yourself. Who's to blame? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Differential Treatment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Differential Treatment. Auntie, did you leave your meal? It's really fake. But we saw that the pot was empty and the kitchen cabinet was locked. Is that possible? My eyes are having problems. Yun Fanghua pretended to be surprised. After a pause, she said again, no, we can't both have eye problems, can we? But even so, why don't you tell me? Because we don't have food to eat, Beiqing wants to borrow money from me to go to the market to eat. Later on, my younger sister didn't want to borrow it, so we went to Aunt Air's house to grab some food. Auntie, are you blaming us for not going to Aunt Air's house to grab some food? I also know it's not good to go to Aunt Air's house to grab some food, but isn't it impossible? Otherwise, if you give Aunt Air some food, let's assume we borrowed it from Aunt Air's house. Do you still want to give her family food? Are you brainwashed? We've already eaten our food, what kind of food should we give back? Besides, our food doesn't fall from the sky. If we give it to them, what should we eat? Auntie, is my family so poor? Can't even afford to eat. If I knew this, I would directly let Beiqing become a burden. Although there are many brothers and sisters in my family, I can't afford to eat. Are you trying to anger me to death? Zheng Fengying pointed at Yun Fanghua, her face turning red with anger. Auntie, are you okay? If you're feeling unwell, you have to go see a doctor. It's not good to avoid seeking medical treatment. Although we can't eat at home, if we get sick, we still need to see a doctor. Beiqing, are you right? Oh, yes. Sheng Beiqing couldn't come to his senses and casually replied. But Zheng Fengying misunderstood and thought he was standing on Yun Fanghua's side. She burst out and cursed, you unfilial son, haven't you seen your mother? I'm going to be furious soon. You're still standing on her side. Get out of this house. Auntie, are you trying to drive us away? Yun Fanghua looked at Zheng Fengying with an incredulous expression on her face and said, aren't you afraid that others will talk about you? I just got married on my first day. Not only did you not give me food, but you also drove me away. Mom, how could you do this? I've put in so much effort for this family over the years, even if I don't have any credit, there's still hard work to do. Besides, taking this new house as an example, I've put in the most effort. But you're lucky enough to drive us away. Am I your own? Without waiting for Zheng Fengying to answer, a voice echoed behind Sheng Beiqing, Boss, what are you talking nonsense about? You're not my biological child or your mother's. Is it possible that you were picked up? After speaking, Shen Goen glared at his wife fiercely and asked, what's going on again? Do you think I'm causing trouble? Zheng Fengying looked at her husband with a look of grievance and said, Dad, go outside and listen to what everyone is saying about me. They say I'm an evil mother. Law, and my daughter. Law just walked in and started sparring with her. Shen Goen really wants to say that's how you did it. But with his son and daughter. Law present, he still wanted to give his old wife some face and said calmly, just say it, you won't lose a piece of meat. Alright, stop arguing. Don't you get annoyed with all this fuss? His father. Zheng Fengming shouted in dissatisfaction, but was glared at by Shingoan and said, "It's getting late. It's time to make lunch. Fanghua, you and Beicheng are going to cook and let your mother rest for a while." "Dad, I really want to cook, but there's nothing in the kitchen, even the kitchen cabinet is locked." "What do you want me to do with it? Didn't you give the key to the kitchen cabinet to the eldest wife?" Shingoan was very dissatisfied with her, thinking that she had no brain at all. "Even if you have objections to your daughter-in-law and want to control her, you can't do it so clearly. I gave it to Yunyun. Since that's the case, let Yunyun cook." "How can we do that? Yunyun is feeding pigs." "This won't work, that won't work either." "Then you can cook for yourself." "Me." Zheng Fengming saw that the old man was angry, so she had to turn around and go to her daughter to get the key. After receiving the key, she handed it directly to Yun Fanghua and warned, "Please save some of your household food for me. If I know you gave the food to someone else, don't blame me for being impolite. Auntie, since you don't believe me, why don't I just skip cooking this meal?" "You." Zheng Fengming didn't expect Yun Fanghua to give up, and her face turned ugly again. Just as he was about to teach her a lesson, Shingoan spoke up again and said, "Fanghua, don't pay attention to your mother. She can't speak. Go cook, I'll talk to your mother." Shingoan spoke up, but Yun Fanghua didn't say much. He turned around and led Xing Beicheng into the kitchen. In her past life, she never asked Xing Beicheng to help with cooking, but now she has changed her mind. Why is it that she is busy with household chores and he eats ready-made food? In her past life, she was considerate of him and felt that it was difficult for him to earn money to support his family, and she didn't let him do any household chores. Finally, he was so used that he didn't even help the oil bottle when it fell. She did all the housework, and he was still picking things up there. Now she won't be so foolish. Since her home belongs to the two of them, she will receive a partial increase in household chores. Of course, she will also earn money together to support the family. Sheng Beiyun didn't even enter the kitchen after feeding the pigs, so she went straight into the house. Originally, she wanted to say a few bad things about her elder brother and sister-in-law to her mother. Seeing her father talking to her mother and looking a bit angry, she didn't dare to touch the mold and obediently went back to her room. Sitting on the bed, Sheng Beiyun thought of her mother's previous words and felt that she couldn't let the rumors continue like this. Otherwise, the mother's bad reputation will also affect her. So, she needs to find a way to change the characters in the rumors. Yun Fanghua didn't know that her sister-in-law was secretly poking and preparing to cause trouble. Cooking is not a difficult task for her. She was very agile in her movements, and with the help of Xing Beicheng, she quickly prepared lunch. Not pure rice, but with some sweet potatoes added. As for the dishes, most of them are leftovers from yesterday's banquet, followed by another stir-fried vegetable. After bringing the food to the living room, Yun Fanghua shouted directly, "It's time to eat." Seeing her grandparents and sister-in-law coming out of the room afterwards, Yun Fanghua went to serve a meal. Sheng Beiyun sat down on the stool and waited for Yun Fanghua to help her prepare a meal. But she didn't want to. After waiting and coming, Yun Fanghua only served everyone and didn't serve her. She immediately became angry and stared at Yun Fanghua, gritting her teeth and asking, "Sister-in-law, where's my meal?" As soon as Xing Beicheng saw that his younger sister was about to find fault, he said directly, "Xiaoyun, how old are you? Can't you cook your own food?" "Big brother, I asked my sister-in-law, what's wrong with you? Didn't you see that she had served meals for each of you, so she just left me out? If you leak, you just need to do it yourself. Great people have said that you can move yourself and have plenty of food and clothing. Do you understand? She didn't miss it, she treated me differently and didn't treat me like your sister." After hearing these words, Yun Fanghua replied lightly, "Do you consider me your sister-in-law?" End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Defamation of Reputation. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 7 Defamation of Reputation. Me. Without waiting for Xing Beiyun to speak, Yun Fanghua continued, "It was you who deliberately hid the food left for us in the morning, causing us to go hungry. We had no food to eat, so we went to Aunt Air's house to eat, and it was you who caused us to lose face. Because you told the truth, you made Aunt blush, and it was you who caused us to be scolded by her. Also, as soon as my new sister-in-law entered, you threw me the job that originally belonged to you. You asked yourself, did you treat me as sister-in-law?" Xing Beiyun was speechless. Only then did Xingguan realize that his daughter had done such a thing. He couldn't help but feel a little angry and gave her a glare before saying, "Apologize to your sister-in-law." Faced with her father's stern gaze, Xing Beiyun had to apologize, but she held a grudge against Yun Fanghua in her heart and became even more determined to secretly cause trouble and spread Yun Fanghua's bad reputation. After eating, Yun Fanghua didn't even wash the dishes and pulled Xing Beiqing back to her room. Returning to the room, she said directly to Xing Beiqing, "Beiqing, how have you been considering the separation of families? You let me think about it again. However, I don't think this will be easy. As you know, I am the main worker in our family, and my parents may not be willing to do it." Yun Fanghua sighed, knowing that it was not easy. "And they cannot bring it up yet, otherwise they will be criticized. The best way is to make my mother-in-law unable to tolerate them, just like in a past life. She had no intention of following the old path of her past life, spending her entire life in the fields. She has to make money, earn a lot of money, and give the children a good living condition. Instead of, like in my previous life, having no money and many children at home, my eldest daughter did well in her studies and was unable to attend high school or university, so she had to study teacher education. Later, because the family owed too much foreign debt, the younger brothers and sisters below also had to go to school. After the eldest daughter graduated from normal school, she was unable to teach and instead went to work in Yangqing. Because it caused her eldest daughter to lose a stable job, she felt guilty for a lifetime. Although my daughter did well in writing novels with her own efforts later on, it was not a stable job after all, and she had to buy her own pension insurance. Now, she is fortunate enough to start over and has learned a lot about the changes in national policies that will follow. Naturally, she should seize the opportunity and work hard to earn more money. Although she doesn't have much skill, she can endure hardship. As some people have said in their past lives, in the 1980s and 1990s, as long as they stood in the wind, pigs could fly. She doesn't seek great wealth or status, as long as she lives better than her previous life and can provide her children with good conditions so that they can go to school without worrying about money. With this in mind, Yun Fanghua looked at Xing Beiqing and said, "I know it's not easy, but I still want to give it a try. We don't have separate families now, and we can't do anything ourselves. The money we've earned through hard work will have to be handed over to your mother. I don't know who it will be used for then. I'm sorry, daughter-in-law, I've wronged you." Xing Beiqing also knew that Yun Fanghua had been wronged when she married him, but as a son of a man, he didn't say much. However, after what happened today, he also felt a bit tempted to split up. If we can really separate our families, even if it's a bit hard or tiring, it doesn't matter. He can endure hardship and fatigue, as long as he is not lazy, he can definitely make a living. Since you don't want to harm me, let's work together and separate as soon as possible. Okay, let's work together. Xing Beiqing held his wife's hand and his idea of dividing the family gradually became firm in his heart. Looking at this man who had been complaining about his past life for a lifetime, Yun Fanghua couldn't help but feel a little strange in her heart, as if he wasn't that unbearable either. Perhaps in my past life, I was too careful, or my mentality was wrong. I always wanted men to guess my thoughts, and I always wanted them to actively see the grievances I had suffered. However, I forgot that men are not worms in my stomach, and they have always been careless and careless. If you don't say they don't understand, how could they actively care for her, and even go against her and her parents? Thinking of this, Yun Fanghua felt a bit self-deprecating. In her past life, she was too arrogant. Fortunately, it's not too late now. She will gradually change her past self, fighting for her own rights bit by bit, and will not repeat the mistakes of her past life. I believe you. Yun Fanghua shook Xing Beiqing's hand in return, with a smile on her face. Looking at his wife who was laughing, Xing Beiqing's heart suddenly jumped uncontrollably, wishing to rub her into his arms and cherish her well. But when I looked up and saw the bright colors outside the window, I had to suppress my restless thoughts. Yun Fanghua didn't notice anything unusual about her own man, so she leaned onto the bed and said, "Let's take a nap. I still have to go down to work in the afternoon." "Okay." Xing Beiqing nodded and then lay down next to his wife. Sure enough, Yun Fanghua's ingredients were not bad at all. As soon as the two of them got up in the afternoon, their mother-in-law directly instructed, "Although you are newlyweds, taking a day off is enough. Come with us to work in the field this afternoon." Yun Fanghua doesn't mind, because she already knew it would be like this. But Xing Beiqing stopped working and said, "Mom, we just got married, so we have to rest for a day or two. Do you think whose new daughter-in-law goes down to work as soon as she gets married? You're not afraid of being laughed at by others. What's the joke? It's just getting married, you don't even need to do the work in the fields. Since you care so much for your wife, then you can help her do that and let her become a daughter at home." "Mom, why do you say that? Am I wrong?" Zheng Fengming had a calm face and looked coldly at Yun Fanghua, as if she had made Xing Beiqing stand out, and her disgust deepened a bit. Yun Fanghua doesn't care, anyway she already knew her mother-in-law didn't like her. Just doing a job, she doesn't know how to do it. And in order to split the family as soon as possible, she needs to increase her disgust value a bit. Therefore, she grabbed the man from her own family who was about to argue with her mother-in-law and said, "Beiqing, it's okay. Since I'm married to your family, I'm a part of your family. How can I make things special?" But Xing Beiqing wanted to say something more, but seeing the persistence in Yun Fanghua's eyes, he eventually compromised. However, he felt even more guilty towards her in his heart, secretly vowing to be better to his wife in the future. Since she agreed to work in the field, Yun Fanghua didn't delay her time and followed Xing Beiqing to the field with a hoe. There were many people working in the field, and when they saw Yun Fanghua, the new wife, they couldn't help but tease her. Yun Fanghua is not really a new wife, so she has no shame at all and just joked with everyone. In this way, everyone thinks she is a good person. Not only is she diligent, but she also has a good personality, unlike some new daughter-in-law who is so timid that people don't like her. Yun Fanghua is building good relationships with the aunties and aunts in the village, but Xing Beiyun is using the opportunity of farming pigsty to tarnish Yun Fanghua's reputation. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. A Palm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. A palm. What kind of sleep until 90 o'clock in the morning? What kind of tea ceremony to make my parents-in-law wait for? What kind of household chores not to do, etc. The little sisters naturally believed Xing Beiyun's words. After all, those who could get together with her had similar personalities. Therefore, without waiting for Yun Fanghua to come back from working in the field, her lazy reputation spread throughout the entire village. When Yun Fanghua found out, she was already on her way home after finishing her work. They were passing by the well at the entrance of the village when an ant happened to be washing vegetables. When she saw Yun Fanghua carrying a hoe and coming back from the field, she smiled and said, "Fanghua, you went to work in the field." "Yes, is Aunt Yang looking for me?" No, Aunt Yang felt a bit embarrassed, feeling that she was old enough to hear that it was rain. Yun Fanghua went to work on the first day of marrying into the Lao Xing family. How could she be a lazy person? It seems that someone is not pleased with her and deliberately smearing her reputation. With this in mind, Aunt Yang decided to wake up Yun Fanghua and asked, Fanghua, have you offended anyone? No, how could Aunt Yang ask such a question? Yun Fanghua had just felt that Aunt Yang had something to say, which made her even more aware that something must have happened that she didn't know, otherwise Aunt Yang wouldn't have asked so. Just as she was about to ask clearly, Aunt Yang said it herself. Fanghua, it's like this. Just now, I heard people in the village saying bad things about you, saying you're lazy. So it's like this. Thank you, Aunt Yang, for telling me these things, otherwise I would still be in the dark. Yun Fanghua smiled and thanked Aunt Yang, but became angry in her heart. The only people who can spread such words are the Xing family. Based on her understanding of the few people in her family, it must be Xing Beiyun who can do such brainless things. Xing Beiqing also heard young Auntie's words and was very angry when he learned that someone had spoken ill of his wife. He comforted her and said, "Daughter-in-law, don't worry, I will definitely help you find out the person who spoke ill of her behind her back. There's no need to look, I already know who it is." "Who is it?" Yun Fanghua turned to look at Xing Beiqing with a sneer on her face and said, "Except for your precious sister, it won't be anyone else." "Xiaoyun. I don't know. When you say this, you can only say that you don't know her well. Besides your mother, she has the biggest opinion of me at home. Your mother just lost face and will definitely stay at home this afternoon, so she can't speak ill of me. On the other hand, your sister, because she couldn't blame me for the pig grass fight, will definitely go out to fight it this afternoon. She hates me, so she naturally wants to smear my reputation and spread bad words about me." Yun Fanghua's analysis makes sense to Xing Beiqing. But he still couldn't believe that his sister would be such a person. So he discussed with Yun Fanghua, "Wife, we'll go back and ask her later. If it's really her, I can't spare her." "Are you sure?" Yun Fanghua looked at her man with a skeptical expression, her mind involuntarily thinking of some past life events. In her past life, Xing Beiyun also disliked her, often causing trouble for her and occasionally taking eye drops. Whenever she tells Xing Beiqing that Xing Beiyun is targeting her, he doesn't believe it. He thinks it's because she's being careless and says that Xing Beiyun simply can't do such a thing. At this moment, she would be so angry that she would fight him to death. Over time, their relationship gradually faded. If it weren't for the sake of a few children, she would have divorced him long ago. "Wife, what's wrong with you?" Xing Beiqing felt something unusual about Yun Fanghua and couldn't help but worry. "I'm fine." Yun Fanghua shook her head and took a deep look at Xing Beiqing before walking towards her home. Xing family, Xing Beiyun is in a good mood. As soon as she thought about what she had done and how Yun Fanghua's bad reputation would quickly spread throughout the village, she became even happier. "Humph, if you dare to confront her, that's the end." Because of joy, Xing Beiyun hummed a small tune. Xing's mother saw her daughter happy and also became happy. However, when she saw her son and daughter-in-law return, her face instantly pulled down, as if they owed her several million. "Mom, we're back." Xing Beiqing greeted and put down the hoe on his shoulder. Zheng Fengyin glanced at the two of them and said coldly, "Since you're back, then you guys can cook." With these words, Xing Beiyun, who was originally on fire, immediately threw away the tongs and prepared to leave. "Xiaoyun, please wait a moment." "Brother, you don't want me to help you, do you?" "I'll tell you, there's no way." Xing Beiyun exclaimed as soon as she heard his elder brother's words. "Are you joking? She wouldn't help them cook. What are you excited about? I didn't ask you to help us cook. What are you calling me for? I have something to ask you." "What are you asking?" For some reason, Xing Beiyun felt a little guilty. Xing Beiqing gave her a faint glance and saw her guilty heart in his eyes. His gaze sank and he said coldly, "Did you tell someone about your sister-in-law this afternoon?" "No." Xing Beiyun felt a little flustered and said directly, "I didn't speak ill of her, you shouldn't have wronged anyone. What does it mean to admit oneself without fighting? That's it." Sheng Beicheng's face turned black immediately, thinking to himself that his wife was indeed right, and that it was really her passing on. "You, what are you doing?" Sheng Beiyun looked at the big brother with a black face and felt a little scared, involuntarily shrinking into the corner. "Sheng Beiyun!" Sheng Beicheng shouted and walked towards her. Without waiting for him to approach, Sheng Beiyun screamed in a sharp voice, "Mom, Mom, come quickly, big brother is going to kill me." Upon hearing these words, Sheng's mother immediately rushed out of the room and saw her eldest son standing at the kitchen door with a black face. She couldn't help but curse, "Boss, you've become so skilled that you even want to hit your own sister." "Mom, you misunderstood." "It's not a misunderstanding." "Mom, big brother is just going to hit me," Sheng Beiyun snatched up and said, relying on her mother's love. She even made a face at Sheng Beicheng. Sheng Beicheng was already angry, but Sheng Beiyun still wronged him and provoked him, which made him even more angry. He decided to teach her a good lesson, so that she wouldn't know the truth. However, Sheng Beiyun was very clever and hid directly behind Sheng's mother. "Mom, please step aside. I must teach her a good lesson today." Sheng Beicheng chased after Sheng Beiyun while asking his mother to step aside. How could Sheng's mother possibly let her daughter be beaten? Not only did she not let go, but she glared at Yun Fanghua, who was standing next to her without saying a word, and said, "You are just a loser. As soon as you marry into my house, you make a fuss." Yun Fanghua, who was shot lying down, looked speechless as she looked at the proud Sheng Beiyun. Without hesitation, she raised her hand and gave her a slap. With a snap, time seemed to come to a standstill. A few people stared at Yun Fanghua in disbelief. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Separation of Families. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Separation of Families. "Auntie, since you're going to put a hat on me, I'll just sit on it." Yun Fanghua blew lightly towards her hand and added a faint sentence. She has been wanting to fight Sheng Beiyun for a long time. "Yun Fanghua, why did you hit me?" Sheng Beiyun, who had regained consciousness, rushed towards Yun Fanghua with a look of wanting to fight back. However, Yun Fanghua wouldn't let her achieve her wish. She didn't wait for her to get close to her, so she lifted her foot and kicked the other person hard, kicking them back. With this kick, Sheng Beiyun couldn't stand still and sat down on the ground. Watching her daughter being beaten, Sheng Fengying was on the verge of going crazy, saying, "It's a big deal," while also seeking revenge for her daughter. As Sheng Fengying was about to grab Yun Fanghua's hair, Sheng Beicheng suddenly realized and rushed to the middle of the two, blocking Yun Fanghua's body and shouting loudly, "Mom, Mom, don't be angry." Sheng Fengying, who was full of anger, saw that her son was actually protecting Yun Fanghua, which added fuel to the fire. She raised her hand and slapped him in the face. "Shengbei City, you white-eyed wolf, I raised you for free." Sheng Beiyun was stunned as she watched her older brother being beaten, her mouth wide open and unable to regain her senses. She knew that her mother didn't like her older brother very much and often looked down on him. But it was the first time my mother had hit my older brother directly, and it was still in front of her, fighting so hard. Although Yun Fanghua's slap on her just now was quite painful, compared to the big brother who can print 5 fingerprints and has a swollen face like a pig's head, she is considered better. Yun Fanghua also couldn't come to her senses, not expecting Sheng Beicheng to stand in front of her. Speaking of which, it only took them half a year from getting to know each other to getting married. Half a year may seem like a long time, but their actual meeting time is very limited. If we talk about how much love they have, it's a lie. She thought he was indifferent and hung high. Unexpectedly, he stood in front of her and slapped Xing Mu for her. "Beicheng, are you okay?" Yun Fanghua, who had come to his senses, stepped forward to examine the wound on Sheng Beicheng's face. Seeing the swollen face, he couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. This Sheng mother is really ruthless. Anyway, Sheng Beicheng is also her son. How could she make such a harsh move? Don't worry, I'm fine. Sheng Beicheng shook his head in pain as he looked at Yun Fanghua with worried eyes. He didn't expect his mother to hit him either. To be honest, he will still be a bit confused. For so many years, he knew that his mother didn't like him. At most, it was just a verbal displeasure, but I never hit him. Of course, except when I was a child. But he never dreamed that even though he was married, his mother would still beat him so hard. His face hurts, his heart hurts even more. He was originally hesitant about splitting up, but this slap strengthened his idea of splitting up. Sheng Beicheng looked up at his mother and said, "Mom, I know you've never liked me. Now that I'm also married, why don't we split up?" "What are you saying?" Zheng Fengying looked at her eldest son with a surprised expression, somewhat suspecting that she might have some ear problems. Otherwise, how could she hear her son say he wants to split up? "Mom, let's split up." "Say it again." "I said split up." Without waiting for Sheng's mother to speak, Sheng Beiyun stopped at first and loudly criticized, "Big brother, what nonsense are you talking about? If we split up, who owns the land in our family?" Sheng Beicheng gave Sheng Beiyun a faint glance and said coldly, "Isn't that what you hoped for? Otherwise, how could you have caused so many things? As a sister.in.law, you don't respect your sister.in.law and speak ill of her outside. Do you think you are very capable? You didn't, you're talking nonsense." "Is it nonsense? I know you know, heaven knows, and earth knows. The people who went to cut pigsty with you today also know." After finishing speaking, Sheng Beicheng ignored Sheng Beiyun and turned to look at Sheng's mother. He said seriously, "Mom, I'm not joking. Since you are wholeheartedly protecting your little sister, let's just pretend that I'm not my son. Okay, it's great. Aren't you going to split up? Then let's split up. I'll see how capable you are. Leaving me and your dad, let's see how good you can be. Auntie, don't worry, after we split up, we will definitely not live worse than we do now. At least, we can have a happier life instead of working in the field for half a day like we do now, coming back without even having to eat and being called lazy." "You." Sheng's mother was almost furious. But Yun Fanghua was not wrong. She deliberately didn't cook early today and waited for Yun Fanghua to come back to do it. Otherwise, by this time, the food would have been ready long ago. "Okay, since you're so capable, this family will be ready early. We'll discuss this matter when Dad comes back. It is better to separate early than late, as Yun Fanghua is not worried about how things will go after the separation." Without the nitpicking of Sheng's mother and the dragging and troublemaking of her sister.in.law, their small family will definitely get better and better. When Shingoen returned from the ground and learned that his wife and son had another argument and had to split up, he was so angry that he rejected the matter. However, Sheng's mother was determined to teach her eldest son and daughter.in.law a lesson, so she couldn't listen to the man's words. She cried, made a scene, and hung herself, insisting on separating the family. Sheng Beiyun doesn't want to split up, afraid that she will have to do all the household chores later. But there is nothing she can do about what Sheng's mother has decided. Even after learning that Sheng's mother was trying to manipulate Yun Fanghua, she directly defected and helped out when Shingoen disagreed, sharing the benefits of separation. In the end, Shingoen couldn't resist and the mother and daughter agreed. Therefore, after having a meal, the family sat together to discuss the separation of families. "Boss, you've made up your mind and really want to split up." Shingoen glanced at Sheng Beicheng and Yun Fanghua and asked seriously. "Although parents are present, there is no separation of families. But if everyone is noisy all day long together, he doesn't like it either. Instead of doing this, it's better to live separately." But he was worried that Sheng Beicheng's decision to split the family would be short-lived, so he decided to ask a question carefully, so as not to let the family split and they would regret it and want to come back. "Dad, we've all come up with a plan. It's better to part ways than living together and causing conflicts all day long. Of course, even if we split up, I'll still be your son, and there won't be any less filial piety. Since you have already made up your mind, let's split up. However, it's a bit late today. Tomorrow, I'll bring your grandpa and uncle and let them be witnesses. Okay. Sheng Beiqing nodded without objection. After discussion, Sheng Beiqing and Yin Fanghua went straight back to their room. The separation came too quickly, and Yin Fanghua couldn't believe it. Even though she had long wanted to split up, it was still somewhat unbelievable that she really wanted to do so. If she had known it was so easy to split up, why did she have to endure it for so long in her past life? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Clean out of household. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Clean out of household. Beiqing, have your parents really agreed to split up? Yun Fanghua still couldn't come to her senses. Yeah, Sheng Beiqing smiled, feeling a bit confused in his heart. To be honest, when he started talking about family separation, he did have a momentary impulse, but after speaking it out, he felt that it was also quite good. The thought of them living a small life together in the future is so beautiful in their hearts. As for the activities in the fields, to be honest, Shengbei City is not worried at all. Because even if he doesn't divide his family, he still does a lot of work in the field. My parents are at that age, and my second younger brother went to enlist again, coming back once a year. And the younger brother is still in school, so he only has time to go to the ground during holidays. Not to mention my younger sister, everyone at home dotes on her. Even if she doesn't have to go to school, she hasn't rained a few times. Father Sheng did not break his promise and went early the next morning to invite someone to his home for breakfast, while also discussing the matter of dividing the family. After dinner, the group sat down and officially separated. However, Sheng Beiqing never dreamed that his parents would let them leave the house clean. Not a penny is spent, not even their new house is allowed to live in, and even the fields are only half an acre of dry land. Dad, Mom, are you dividing your families too far? Sheng Beiqing was full of anger, but he had to suppress it. Several brothers who were called to witness the separation were also surprised to hear such a separation method. You should know that Sheng Beiqing is the eldest son of the family. It's already a bit excessive to divide people out as soon as they get married. It's hard to justify even letting them leave the house clean. Therefore, the second son of the Sheng family, Guiye, took the lead in speaking up and said, "Big brother, there's no such thing as dividing the family. At least Beiqing is also your eldest son, so you should also give them some things, right?" Before Sheng Goen spoke, Sheng Fengying answered, "Second child, you don't have to speak for them. It's not that we want to separate the family, it's their own idea. Since we have the ability to separate the family, we should earn it by ourselves. Now the family property is earned by your eldest brother and I, and it's up to us to decide who we want to give, and who we don't want to give." This. Sheng Guiye's words suddenly stopped. He never imagined that his sister-in-law was such a person. Before, it wouldn't be like this either. What's going on here? Just married a daughter-in-law, how could it be like a different person, becoming so arrogant and unreasonable? Sheng Fengying doesn't care what Sheng Guiye is thinking. She did this to hold on to the boss and ensure that they were not separated. She thought that Sheng Beiqing and Yun Fanghua would change their minds, shrink back, regret it, and then say they wouldn't separate. Not giving money is still a small matter, and the place to live is not a problem. Not having a field is the worst thing. As a farmer, I only have half an acre of dry land, so what do they eat? It's okay now, only the couple. When the two have children, it will still be a big problem. Sheng Fengying calculated well, thinking that the conditions for separation were so harsh that Sheng Beiqing and Yun Fanghua would compromise and take the initiative to propose not to separate. Sheng Beiqing did hesitate because he knew nothing but farming. Now their family doesn't even give them a piece of paddy field, they can't grow rice, and they can't even eat. If Yun Fanghua had not been reborn, perhaps it would have been the same as Sheng Beiqing had thought. After all, People in this era have their eyes set on that and do not even know that there are many ways to support themselves besides farming. If it comes to making money, farming is the most tiring and least profitable. Therefore, with limited land, Yun Fanghua is actually happy to see it succeed, so she doesn't have to spend her time in the fields and can do other things. After Jing Fengying finished speaking, she kept staring at Xingbei City. Seeing his hesitant face, she felt a bit proud and thought she had held on to him, waiting for him to say she wouldn't part ways. Unexpectedly, Yun Fanghua gently tugged at Xingbeicheng's sleeve and said, "Okay, half an acre of dry land is half an acre of dry land. But since you're doing it so well, don't expect us to help you with the work on the land in the future. After all, we don't have land, so we have to find other ways to support ourselves." As soon as Yun Fanghua spoke, Xingbeicheng became anxious and turned to look at her, shouting, "Wife! Beicheng, believe me, even without paddy fields, we wouldn't starve to death. But is it difficult for you to still want to spend time together? Have you forgotten about not having food to eat? If we don't separate, there will be many more of these things in the future. Is it difficult for us to always go to Uncle Ayer's or Uncle San's house for meals? That's not possible." Xingbeicheng directly rejected. Both the second and third uncles have children to support. It's okay to go to their house to eat once or twice, but if there are too many, it definitely won't work. That's it. We'll live on our own. As long as we work hard, we won't starve to death. Okay, then I'll listen to you. After discussing it, the couple no longer hesitated and directly asked San Shuguotang to write a separation document. Originally, the two uncles wanted to persuade the elder brother to give the child some more. I can see that the two have already agreed and haven't said anything more. Soon, the separation document was written. Xingbeicheng and Yun Fanghua moved out of their new home and moved to their old house. Half an acre of dry land, Yun Fanghua asked for the piece at the foot of the mountain, which happened to be close to the old house and convenient for work. And the reason why she chose that place is not only because it is close to home, but also because there are mountain springs and water there. She didn't plan to grow food on that dry land, but rather prepared to grow vegetables. Watering vegetables directly with mountain spring water is not only convenient, but the vegetables grown are also delicious. In her past life, she used that land to grow vegetables and sell them. People who have eaten it all say that the dishes she grows are sweet and delicious. She felt that it was most likely due to the relationship between the mountain and spring water. Both parties have pressed their fingerprints on the document, and this house is considered divided. Jing Fengying's plan was not successful, and she was in a bad mood. She didn't care if there were still guests at home, so she just rushed people and asked the couple to move out. They have already split up, so Yun Fanghua and Xingbeicheng naturally won't be stuck here. Therefore, the two of them directly carried Yun Fanghua's dowry and headed towards the old house. Xingoan was also not very comfortable in his heart. Originally, he wanted to share some things with his boss, but his wife insisted on not wanting to force his son to change his mind and not split up. He didn't really want to split up, so he agreed. But who knew that their son and daughter-in-law were determined to separate their families, even if it was so unfair and they were allowed to leave the house clean, they still agreed. Finally, the daughter-in-law's plan failed and instead made people feel that they were mean. The family has already been divided, and anything else is in vain. The happiest thing about splitting up is none other than Yun Fanghua. She has already figured out how to do a big job after splitting up. Compared to Xingbeicheng's forced smiles, she is truly happy. Beicheng, don't cry and lose face. Believe me, we can definitely have a better life after we split up. Xingbeicheng looked bitter and said, daughter-in-law, we are currently penniless and only have 200 kilograms of grain. After we finish eating, we will have to drink from the west and north. End of this chapter.